I just got 200 pounds of Lego. In this video, I'll try to bring order to the chaos, from sorting pieces by hand and building a working Lego sorting machine, to restoring entire sets and minifigures. Will I actually manage to pull it off, or will I just go insane? Let's find out. Let's get started. My friend bought 200 pounds of Lego. He washed it, partially sorted it, built a bunch of sets, and even made a whole video about it. But after a month of non-stop work, he realized he had enough and sent it all to me. Now it's my job to finish what he started and squeeze the maximum out of this mountain. The boxes of Lego are already at my place.
Oh my.
Just look at how many there are. Over 200 pounds of bricks. The first step is to unpack everything and see what I'm dealing with. Unboxing time. Inside were containers with partially organized pieces. In the very first box, I found a container full of unfinished sets. Even now, I can already spot some pretty interesting ones. But it's time to move on to the next box. This one is packed with containers full of Lego Technic parts. There's a whole mountain of them. I'm sure these will be super useful later on. The next box was filled with already assembled sets. Let's take them out for a closer look. The sets were built custom. Some parts were missing, some builds didn't follow the instructions, and a few models weren't fully put together at all. But even like this, many of them look pretty awesome. Then I came across another box with spare parts and pieces from different sets. A huge box overflowing with wheels, along with a container of random elements. And in this box, not only were there more parts, but also a bunch of minifigures. Plus, at the very bottom, I found around 100 instructions. After sorting through them, I realized there are tons of amazing sets hiding in here. In the next box, there was a whole pile of brand new Lego bricks. I'll pour them into a more convenient container. Finally, I was left with boxes full of bags of random, unsorted Lego. Alongside the somewhat organized bricks, there were countless bags of pure chaos. Same goes for the wheels. All the Lego barely fit onto a massive table, and the sight was truly impressive. Considering the number of manuals and missing parts lists, the right move was to bring order to it all. Altogether, there were 3 huge containers of unsorted Lego. Dealing with this amount alone was impossible, so I called for help. On video, the process looks fast, but in reality, it's slow and very repetitive. After 30 hours of sorting, we ended up with dozens of containers filled with categorized parts. Plates, tiles, bricks, Technic pieces, and lots of functional elements. But most of what we sorted were larger parts. The real challenge was still ahead, a giant container full of tiny elements. Sorting that much by hand was almost impossible. There were so many categories that it could take longer than everything we had already done. That's when I decided I needed to automate the process. The idea was to build a Lego sorting machine that could do the hard work for us. To build the mechanisms, I needed lots of Lego Technic parts, and luckily they were there, though still in relative disorder. So I went further, manually sorting them by type and size. I started with the connectors. After pouring everything into a larger container for better visibility and preparing small boxes for each type of connector, I began sorting. Once the connectors were done, I moved on to the other categories. There are quite a lot of them, but hey, anything for the sake of order. After several more days of effort, I ended up with a huge supply of Technic pieces ready for building. Time to assemble the sorting machine. The idea came when I was trying to reach a piece at the bottom of a container. There was a small crack where the tiniest elements had fallen through. That's when it hit me. If I built multiple layers of grids with different hole sizes, I could sort parts by level. The biggest would stay on top, and the smallest would fall all the way down. To make it easier, I added several mechanisms. First, a mechanical hatch. Open it and the parts drop to the next level, from where they can be poured into containers. Second, mixers on each level that push pieces toward the openings. After debugging the mechanisms, I built a frame out of bricks, added a funnel at the top for pouring in parts, and placed a rail cart with a container at the bottom. The whole build turned out massive. I poured Lego into the funnel and turned on the mechanism. Some parts immediately slipped through the holes, while others were pushed along by the mixers. Once the flow stopped, I poured everything into separate containers, the smallest into one bin, then slid the cart back, opened the next hatch, and repeated the process until I had 3 size categories. But long tests revealed flaws. The hatches and plate-based grids weren't rigid enough, letting big pieces fall through. The mixers often jammed and even flung parts all over the studio. Sorting quality dropped a lot.
Hey!
So I decided to rebuild everything from scratch with a new design. This time, the grids were made from Lego windows and doors. Connecting them together created sieves with different hole sizes. I made 4 levels in total. I tested each one by hand, and the results were perfect. Every layer only allowed specific parts to pass through. That way, each level collected pieces of the same type. All 4 sieves were stacked into one tower. Pieces were poured in at the top, and the tower had to be shaken to let them fall into the right levels. Into the plastic container at the bottom, the smallest pieces fall right away. Those can be sorted out immediately. To get to the remaining parts on the different levels, the tower has to be taken apart. It's better not to pour in too many pieces at once, because they can block each other and pile up on a single level. To make it sturdier, I reinforced it with Technic beams, making each level clip together but easy to disassemble after sorting. I even reused the frame from the first machine. For automation, I mounted the tower on a rail cart with a reciprocating lever powered by 2 big Lego motors. Sorting time. I poured the Lego on top, turned on the motors, and waited a couple of minutes. Then I disassembled the tower, separated the levels, and poured the parts into bins. The process repeated for the whole pile. The motors weren't strong enough for the tiniest parts, so halfway through I had to sift some pieces by hand. Still, the result was great. 5 containers filled with sorted parts by size. Now, when restoring sets, I knew exactly where to look for missing pieces. To evaluate the sorting, I poured everything out and spread it across the surface. You can already notice that each group is dominated by certain types of pieces, and now if I ever need to find a small plate, my search area will be much smaller. Finally, it was time to restore the sets. For each one, I found the instruction manual. I had an entire box of spare parts that also needed to be matched to the right sets, so I wouldn't have to rebuild them completely from scratch and waste extra time. I decided to start with restoring the Technic sets, since most of them were already almost assembled but still needed some work. The toughest challenge was a massive Technic truck. It was missing the entire rear container. Of course, such pieces can always be ordered online. I didn't do that, but I still managed to rebuild most of the truck with what I had. Sorting the Technic pieces by type allowed me to do this pretty quickly. However, sometimes I was missing decorative elements from classic bricks, and finding those took a bit longer. Once the Technic sets were done, I moved on to the Classic series. Here, the variety of parts was much bigger, checked what was missing, and started building. Some sets came together quickly, others required long hunts for rare elements. I even dug out tiny tiles just to make them 100% complete. In some cases, I replaced colors. In others, I rebuilt entire mechanisms. Rebuilding the sets after sorting turned out to be a really fun process, and even though hunting for certain pieces was a challenge, the finished sets were absolutely worth the effort. The final result honestly amazed me. Laying all the sets out on the table looked like every kid's dream, not just a display, an entire amusement park. There was Ninjago, Star Wars, Creator, Harry Potter, and City. Each set had its own feature: rockets with multiple stages, a modular space station, roller coasters, hidden weapon mechanisms, even a flying build. The massive Creator sets like the pirate ship and lunar station were especially impressive. Lego trains were also in the mix, and they remain some of the most fun and detailed sets to play with. The only thing missing was minifigures. I had 2 containers overflowing with parts and accessories, but they also needed to be sorted. I grouped them by theme, then separated torsos, legs, and heads so I could reassemble full figures. Non-original pieces were set aside too. Once everything was organized, the minifigures were reunited with their sets. Now, all the rebuilt models were complete. Of course, I still had lots of instructions left, mostly for city sets, which would need to be rebuilt almost from scratch. But I decided to leave that for another time, not in this video. All this sorted Lego will definitely come in handy for future projects. So to make sure you don't miss it, subscribe to the channel and comment what you would build if you had this many pieces. And don't forget to check out my friend's video as well. Thanks for watching. See you next time.